Have you ever stopped to wonder why, even in the 21st century, we're still discussing which path truly illuminates our civilization? And what if the future of humanity was, in fact, suspended between two minds who defied the nature of the universe and fought one of science's most emblematic battles? Imagine waking up in an era when electricity was an almost magical mystery, and every advance seemed to flirt with both expansion and extinction. Right? In one corner, Thomas Edison, pragmatic, relentless, determined to control every wire of energy that sliced through the silence of the cities. In the other, Nikola Tesla, the visionary who saw electricity as cosmic poetry, open to possibilities as grand as the very stars in the sky. The clash? It wasn't just a war over inventions, but a true philosophical battle about intelligence, technology, and even the survival of our species. Why is it that, even today, this duel still resonates? Is the answer hidden somewhere between genius and ambition, sabotage and belated recognition? Or is the greatest mystery found in how each discovery molds time, existence, and the very destiny of civilization? If this universe of paradoxes fascinates you, don't waste time. Subscribe here to embark on this journey to the edges of the unknown. Get ready to explore dramas, theories, and discoveries that change the course of science, and who knows, help me uncover what the next battle of the cosmos will be. Now, hold on tight, because the real war of currents and ideas is about to begin. Picture yourself on a stormy night, lightning tearing through the sky and lashing shadows in an era about to be illuminated by minds bold enough to challenge the unknown. Amid the 19th century gloom, two names emerge, Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, as harbingers of a revolution that would set the world ablaze and rewrite the rules of civilization. But who were these men, whose fates would converge in one of science's most iconic rivalries? And why would their philosophies collide like titans, shaping not only technology's future, but the very nature of existence? From an early age, Edison was a force of nature. The son of Canadian immigrants, self-taught, hair perpetually disheveled from chasing ideas, he drank coffee by the bucket and slept little, as if every minute away from creativity was a crime against survival. As a child, Thomas dismantled clocks to understand the movement of a miniature universe. He read technical books as hungrily as adventure novels. The inquisitive boy who nearly set a train car on fire with his experiments would soon become known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, a symbol of pragmatism and of the unshakable belief that science was, above all, a tool for progress and wealth. From the other side of the world was Nikola Tesla, surrounded not just by Balkan mysticism, but also literal and metaphorical storms. Legend has it he came into the world beneath stormy skies, as if electricity itself had claimed him. Unlike his frenetic rival, Tesla was introspective, moved by near-prophetic visions. He saw gears turning in clouds, equations echoing through the cosmos like symphonies. His universe was made of symbols, dreams, and possibilities, guided by the belief that intelligence should serve civilization's harmony, not merely profit or power. Sounds like something out of a movie, but it was only the beginning. Time still hung like a veil of riddles, and both men were unaware that their destinies would soon cross on a chessboard of genius and ambition, where each move would cost not only patents, but the very definition of the future. Who could have imagined, between science books and sleepless nights, that the fate of billions, and even the very direction of technological evolution, was about to be decided by the rivalry between two irreconcilable philosophies? Driven by relentless curiosity, Tesla grew fascinated by the possibility of transmitting energy wirelessly. Dreaming of lighting entire cities without a single flame, Edison preferred a practical, methodical approach. To him, every experiment needed to immediately prove its value. Every invention had to have a concrete application. Every day, a step toward recognition and glory. Two ways of seeing the cosmos, two strategies for deciphering mysteries that for millennia had fueled humanity's yearning for expansion and discovery. And don't think it was just theory. Their daily lives were filled with nearly epic obstacles. Edison sometimes slept in his own laboratory, surrounded by wires and tubes, folders of patents stacked ever higher, never for one moment doubting he was forging the frontiers of technology. Tesla, meanwhile, spent sleepless nights mentally assembling intricate designs, conducting complete experiments in his mind before ever touching a wire. A true shaman of the future, able to foresee failures and successes before even a single connection was made. It's no exaggeration to say that, even in the early flickers of their careers, both stood out as representatives not just of two great currents of electricity, but of thought itself. Edison, the symbol of doggedness, of ceaseless experimentation, of the small practical steps that, taken together, eventually build civilizations. Tesla, the harbinger of visionary intuition, of belief in universal principles, of the bold leap into the unknown, even when it risked drifting into utopia. Between ramshackle labs, caffeine-fueled nights, and the constant search for understanding the universe's mysteries, these two giants began to forge their own legacies. In their nightly walks, Tesla beneath the stars imagining how he might harness the cosmos's invisible forces, Edison hunched over papers, striving to turn each spark of invention into tangible gold. They unknowingly sketched the inevitable collision that would decide not only who would light the world, but which vision of intelligence and civilization would carry humanity forward. The most curious part? While many saw merely the clash of eccentric personalities, few realized they were witnessing the very portrait of science's paradox, the ongoing tension between practice and philosophy, ingenuity and inspiration, expansion and survival. So have you ever stopped to wonder which side of this rivalry you would choose? But as with any story that resists the grip of time and space, the meeting of these two geniuses wouldn't happen simply. It would take a spark, an improbable, almost explosive encounter, to ignite the true duel, the famous War of Currents. That's when the plot would take on almost mythical contours. Get ready to step onto the next stage of this scientific epic, where the meeting of Tesla and Edison transforms a simple electric wire into a real battle line. It was the end of the 19th century, and the world, freshly entered into the age of machines and technological possibilities, was bubbling with excitement. The growth of cities brought new demands: lighting, communication, energy to power dreams once limited by darkness and silence. It was as if civilization itself was boiling, ready for a leap never before imagined. And it's in this vibrant, almost chaotic scenario that these two titans' paths finally collide. Tesla, then a young Serbian immigrant newly arrived in the United States, carried in his bag a handful of revolutionary ideas and the desire to find someone willing to place a big bet on the mystery of electric energy. Edison, on the other hand, was already celebrated as America's great practical genius, inventor of the incandescent lamp, a master promoter, a symbol of self-made success. The meeting was inevitable, a clash of galaxies, two universes of intelligence that could never orbit in harmony. Right away, their deep differences appeared. Edison saw direct current, DC, his preferred method of generating and distributing electricity, as linear, predictable, controllable. To him, efficiency lay in simplicity. Tesla, passionate about mathematical elegance and wide-ranging possibilities, defended alternating current, AC. Complex to laymen, yes, but infinitely more versatile and efficient for transmitting energy over long distances. Imagine, for a second, an endless, winding river compared to a fountain that only ever flows forward. That's the essence of this scientific paradox. The clash of ideas soon turned into a power struggle. After working for months in Edison's company, Tesla tried to convince him to explore alternating current. Edison, stubborn and certain his vision was correct, dismissed the suggestion with some condescension. "Mathematical curves don't light lamps," he quipped. The world of invention revealed itself not only as a field of creativity, but a minefield of egos, vanity, and, let's be honest, subtle sabotage. Unable to grow under the shadow of the Wizard of Menlo Park, Tesla left the lab and tasted the bitter flavor of rejection, even working manual labor to survive, feeding himself more on hope than bread. But time, master of all mysteries, is generous to those bold enough to imagine. Soon, keen-eyed investors picked up on future signals and bet on the visionary. George Westinghouse, a magnate in the electrical sector, took Tesla under his wing and went all in on alternating current. Here's where the war of currents explodes, and calling it a war is no exaggeration. Edison, fearing the loss of his technological dominance, launched a fierce campaign to discredit alternating current. He orchestrated cruel public demonstrations, electrocuting animals to prove Tesla's system was dangerous. In his pragmatism, Edison justified these strategies as survival of the fittest. No room for idealism when the future of civilization was at stake. Tesla, in return, answered not with attacks, but with risky demonstrations, holding high-voltage wires in his hands, shooting sparks into the air before awestruck crowds. "I trust my own science," he declared. As cities grew and power lines stretched across the continent, public opinion wavered between fear and fascination. The race for million-dollar contracts to light up metropolises like New York transformed the scientific debate into a media spectacle and a personal drama, where survival and recognition walked hand in hand. A true game of nerves and possibilities. The cosmos seemed to watch in silence. Who was right? Tradition? Prudence? Edison? Or Tesla's bold vision, able to see where no one had yet dared to look? It's impossible to miss how this duel on a human scale mirrors the mystery of the universe itself, the ever-present tension between the predictable and the improbable, between the quest for safety and the impulse to evolve. With every act of sabotage, every spark of genius, civilization lurched forward, sometimes tripping on its own paradoxes, sometimes leaping over chasms of uncertainty. The question remained: which current of thought would prevail? Which spark of inventiveness would shape our future? And most intriguing of all, what price would be paid for the expansion of this new age? But as always, the story doesn't end here. The climax of this struggle, with its victories, defeats, plot twists, and the consequences not only for the protagonists but for society itself, is just ahead, waiting for another flash of curiosity. After all, where there's electricity, there's always room for one final surprise. If in the previous chapters we witnessed the birth of ideas and the spark that triggered the war of currents, now it's time to step onto the battlefield. Get ready. The war between Edison and Tesla reaches its climax, and the stage couldn't be grander. New York's illuminated streets, the buzz of big scientific expositions, newspaper columns turning technical disputes into national sagas. And behind all this spectacle, a society barely grasping the details, but sensing it's standing at a defining crossroads in civilization's history. The decisive turn begins with a question: should energy be a resource controlled by the few or distributed for collective progress? Edison, untiring in his pragmatism, responded by building a vertical empire where every wire of power belonged, directly or indirectly, to his name. The tentacles of DC spread across city maps, a tangled net cast to capture the future. Control seemed absolute, but science, as we know, loves to upend certainties. Tesla and Westinghouse, convinced AC could cross continents spreading like cosmic waves through space, boldly challenged Edison's dominance in the heart of America. It all came with a lot of drama, sabotage, lawsuits, even veiled threats from both sides. In fact, the infamous electrocution of the elephant Topsy, broadcast as a cruel spectacle, was a calculated move to illustrate the supposed dangers of AC, one of the darkest episodes of the so-called Electric War. However, the universe has its own way of rewarding persistence and curiosity. In 1893, the Chicago World's Fair became the main arena, where Tesla and his team dramatically demonstrated AC supremacy. Towers, buildings, palaces, and streets bathed in an unearthly blue glow, all powered by Tesla's systems. It was as if the galaxy itself had descended to dance with humanity. The crowds, fascinated, witnessed not just the triumph of a technology, but a quantum leap in humanity's perception of what's possible. From that moment, electrification contracts, especially the colossal Niagara Falls project, fell into Westinghouse's hands. Tesla's energy ran free, leaping mountains and valleys, lighting cities. The future, for a moment, seemed to belong to those willing to look past the immediate horizon. Yet, as is always the paradox of science, Tesla's technical victory brought him no proportional glory in life. Edison, master of self-promotion, managed to cement his image as the face of inventiveness, while Tesla, notoriously indifferent to patents and wealth, sank deeper into obscurity. And here, how can we not reflect on the price paid? Both men's stubbornness, sometimes an engine, sometimes a weakness, shows that the survival of an idea depends not just on its merit, but on how it fits into the social, economic, and even media game. The universe of invention isn't only made of intelligence, but also of recognition, of timing, and, why not, of pure luck. Behind every switch flipped, there's the mystery of the misunderstood genius, the pioneer swallowed by his own possibilities. The curious thing is how the echo of this rivalry stretches to today. When we look at the expansion of power grids, at the relentless search for new forms of energy, at debates over distribution, survival, and even the extinction of old models, we realize the war never really ended. It just changed stage and main characters. Tesla became a cult symbol of infinite possibility. Edison, the personification of entrepreneurial pragmatism. Ultimately, both are still alive in the electricity all around us, in cities, in satellites, in the smallest devices of daily life. It's almost as if the galaxy itself conspires to keep this debate alive. What is truly the best path for human evolution? And perhaps the most brilliant or unsettling truth is that every new discovery, every scientific advance that pushes the boundaries of the universe holds a piece of this paradox. After all, what would space exploration, artificial intelligence, or quantum communication be without minds willing to challenge the status quo? The survival of every civilization depends, in some way, on its ability to learn from the signs, whether they're triumphant shouts or whispers lost in time. Therefore, there is no definitive conclusion. There is instead an eternal invitation to curiosity. How far can we take ideas? How much of the past still burns bright in our discoveries of tomorrow? And, in the end, is recognition as important as real impact? The cosmos, silent, seems to smile at the paradox, as if to say the search for the answer is itself the greatest mystery. So at the end of it all, whose side would you take? Edison's relentless pragmatism or Tesla's visionary, almost alien dream? Is real progress found by embracing risk and audacity, or by moving step by step with careful experimentation? The fascinating thing is, whenever you flip a switch, charge your phone, or watch your city's nightscape, you're living the living legacy of that ancient war of currents. The choices of those two geniuses still shape our daily lives, our possibilities, and the big questions about the future of civilization, our relationship with technology, and our very existence. But history, like electricity, never stops pulsing. New paradoxes, new battles and mysteries arise with every wave of innovation, sparking curiosity in explorers, scientists, and dreamers. And maybe, in some far-off galaxy, or in our own neighborhood lab, another rivalry is being born right now, ready to rewrite science and expand the limits of time. So let me know in the comments, what surprised you most about this rivalry? What do you think defines a truly advanced civilization? Unrestricted genius, strategic pragmatism, or a little of both? And of course, don't forget to check out the recommended video on the universe's greatest yet-to-be-uncovered discoveries. Who knows? Maybe the next great intellectual expansion starts with your curiosity.